Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Silicon Valley Quantum Computing Group. This is the 16th episode of this program. Today, we have a topic on quantum cryptography for enterprises. In the past, we did talk about quantum cryptography, talked about some source code and stuff like that. Anna did an excellent talk, and it's almost a year now. This talk is by Bhagavan Komari, and he is going to take us through his work and his journey. Um, I'm going to quickly move to the next slide. Um, my name is Taposh Roy. I am a director of innovation in a healthcare organization called Kaiser Permanente. I focus on digital twins, machine learning, and data science. My prior to this, I was the head of ad products for a couple of startups, and also worked in a consulting company called Sapient Nitro back in the day. My I have author of two books, Intelligent Governance, which is the latest book, which is basically navigating the complexities of AI and quantum computing, and then medical image processing with deep learning was an older book in 2020. I am a graduate from IIT in Chicago, and I have an MBA from UC Davis. More recently, I am going to start a program from at Harvard Medical School. It's a program in bioethics. My focus is in AI. My co-host, she's not here. She is a volunteer. She will join in a few minutes and she'll help us do all the surveys. She's a middle schooler. She's interested in quantum computing. She likes Python. She's gonna help me with the organizing activities. Our host today is Bhagwan Komadi. He's the founder of Quantica and has about 20 years of experience in the industry. His experience range from both large-scale enterprises to incubating products for startups. He has a master's in industrial systems engineering from Georgia Tech and a bachelor's in aerospace engineering from IIT Madras. Um, I'm very excited about his book, because upcoming book as well. He is publishing it through Pact, and it's oh sorry, he has two books actually. Well, the first one is Hands-on Data Structures and Algorithms with Go programming language, and this is Pact is publishing it. The new book, The Quantum Computing Solutions for Solving Real-World Problems, is the A-Press book. He is an excellent speaker. I had the opportunity to talk to him prior, so we are very excited to have him here. With that, I'm going to pass it on to Bhagwan to take us further. Bhagwan, I'm going to stop sharing and let you share your screen, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Taposh. Hi, everybody. My name is Bhagwan Komanthi, and Taposh has introduced me. Just currently, I am based out of in India, in Gurgaon, working for Capital Global Capital as the head of product engineering and technology. So that's in the fintech space. I worked extensively in product companies, had my own startups in quantum computing area and AI, right? And I guess what Taposh was saying that you're all familiar with quantum computing. So I don't want to spend too much time on quantum computing, but quantum cryptography is an interesting evolving area. And there are many enterprises who are looking into quantum cryptography. And this is primarily focusing on handling the challenges of the existing cryptographic algorithms. So it's like $1 billion question. Apparently, recently I was reading an article where US President Joe Biden was also participating if all our digital secrets will fall prey to quantum computation, right? So the answer from Joe Biden and many senior folks is not. It's not to panic, but we need to plan carefully, right? And understand the cryptography upgrades which were necessary. So the reality is when rubber meets the road, like they say, right? Is that do you need to change the cryptographic algorithms and we may need to make them fail-proof, right? The speculative part is about how quickly it will happen and how large is the impact, right? And many people will ask the question, why is it important now? We don't have quantum computer in vogue. Many countries are figuring out, and quantum algorithms are also not very popular. And slowly in the universities, students are learning about quantum computing. Why do we need to worry about the quantum cryptography? I'm sure you would have heard about post-quantum cryptography challenges. So all banks, financial firms, e-commerce companies, enterprises are looking at the post-quantum cryptography. So they're going to have issues with the cryptographic algorithms, right, which break the current cryptographic algorithms. So it's the need of the hour in every enterprise and organization where you have online payments, transactions, and you have documents which are signed, encrypted, and sent across the wire. So to the question, where do you have the quantum? We don't have. We're not everybody has a quantum computer. Not everybody uses quantum algorithms. Like they say, right? We are we are only looking at one side of the screen. In one side of the screen, you're looking for the perfect quantum computer which can run properly and which can give accurate results. And there are a lot of research and a lot of commercial big companies getting into quantum computing. Whereas there is the other on the other side of the screen, there are hackers, criminals, right, who are getting access to this supercomputing power, like a quantum computer, like high computing power, and they will have access to higher processing and computing power, which is required for like data breaches or exposing the sensitive data or website hijacking or man in the middle attacks, right? So there are happening as we speak, and we don't know what kind of computers they are really using, but they surely have higher processing and computing power. But the best quantum computer is yet to come, right? And hackers require just 2 3 hours to break this encryption. The stability and the quantum computer specification or quality, like I mentioned, is not important for the hackers, right? So most of the areas in enterprise like governance, risk, compliance, and audit, they're all looking into these areas. Fintech firms need to focus on implementing new cryptographic algorithms, right? And there's a new term called Y2Q, which is coming, right? And then the key difference is that we used to have something called Y2K. Right? I think many people who are like at least 10 years in IT before knew that there's something which is going to happen around 2000, and the flights will get cancelled or flights will fly down or something crazy will happen, right? But we knew that it is going to happen on that day morning of January 1st, 2000, right? But here the problem with Y2Q is that we really don't know when it is going to happen. So that's the brief background I just wanted to share before I jump into the slides. Feel free to put in the chat if you have any questions. So I'll get started.
Sure. Bhagwan, is it okay to interject you for questions, or do you want it at the very end?
Yeah, feel free to stop me if you have any question.
Okay. If I see some from the audience, I'll let you know. Thank you.
Sir, we are not able to hear.
Think we lost your audio again, Bhagwan.
Yeah, I'm there. I'm there. I heard something in the background. So, was there any question or anything? That's why it stopped.
No, no questions. No questions.
Oh, so just along during the presentation, I just wanted to ensure that you have this mind map which shows what exactly we are talking about, where it fits in. Because I'm sure many people who have gone through quantum computing know that it involves mathematics, physics, and chemistry, right? Clearly, chemistry and physics because of quantum mechanics, mathematics because of algorithms, right? But where does quantum cryptography fit in, right? You have quantum mechanics, which touches upon physics, chemistry, then you have computer science, quantum AI, from mathematics, computer science, machine learning, AI, search and data science, mathematics, we touch upon calculus, linear algebra, vectors, and so on. Whereas the quantum cryptography touches upon the mathematics part and also how you can apply quantum mechanic principles within algorithms, quantum algorithms to make quantum cryptographic algorithms foolproof and more efficient, right? On the left-hand side, at the bottom, I just put the classic Alice and Bob model, where if you look at public-private key, like a standard PKI, right, you have encryption, you have a message which is encrypted, sent across to Bob, and Bob can decrypt it using the private key. Similarly, the Bob encrypts and send it across to Alice, and they use the public-private key infrastructure. So we're going to revisit this particular model also with what is changed when the quantum cryptography comes in. So these two keep in the mind as we move along. So we'll keep revisiting some of these things. So just a quick recap. I think you're all familiar, but I don't want to. I want to ensure that we just have 2 or 3 slides to capture what we all know about quantum computing. Right? So we write quantum programs, we have quantum languages, we have quantum instruction set, quantum operations, and those operate upon quantum gates, right? So let's say you're on a classic computer, and many of the people ask, right, and customers and friends, you don't have access to quantum computing. You keep talking about quantum programs, quantum languages, quantum operations. How do you go about doing it? So I just have my laptop with a classic computer. I don't even have on cloud access. So how do you go about doing this whole quantum algorithms? So you have quantum programs, quantum languages. You can have a quantum simulator, which will run on a classic computer, which will simulate the quantum circuit and quantum processing unit. And you can have quantum software programs written and executed on a classical computer, right? So the next question comes in, and Bhagwan, what is the big difference? I mean, you have quantum algorithms, you have classic algorithms. So what do we get? What is the benefit of using quantum algorithms? So if you do not even get into quantum computer, you just have your classical computer, you just use quantum algorithms, you're going to get 3x speed is guaranteed over the classic algorithms. So the other important thing which is evolving is the quantum assembly language. Over and above the quantum hardware, we have quantum assembly language, which works with the quantum circuits and libraries, and quantum languages are used for programming the writing quantum programming programs which are executed over the quantum assembly language. The next question comes, so great, we have the quantum computer, we have the quantum algorithms. Where do you plan to use them? Are the classic, when the quantum computer comes in, the classical computer will go away, or what will happen to the classic computer? Where are we going to use the quantum computer? Is this a threat? Does it end our classical computer? The answer is no. Quantum computer will be in a special space, and we continue to use the classical computer for standard, monotonous, and routine and robotic processes, right? We will continue to use the classical computer. The quantum computer part comes in where we have the complex computing, complex processing required, like in the machine learning area, like clustering, scenario analysis, quantum AI, right? In optimization, like logistics and planning, not like our classic simple logistics and planning. Like currently, we're able to plan for a single trip. We can plan for multiple trips across the cities, right? Not just for one passenger, one single vehicle for, let's say, 1,000 vehicles going across US, multiple states, and single point. Currently, we may plan for single point, multiple drop off. We can have multi-point pickup and multi-point drop off, right? Just to show you the complexity of the algorithms which quantum computing can handle. And also, very importantly, simulations, right? How do you go about simulating the traffic? Let's say there is some construction going on in a major city like a San Francisco. How do you go about simulating, right? In a day or for a month, right? How do you plan to simulate? So it's a very complex problem, and we can use quantum computer for it. Similarly, performance, how well this particular computer can scale, how well this particular portfolio can perform in finance. And very importantly, cryptography, like post-quantum resistance, cybersecurity, right? And we can really try out new quantum cryptographic algorithms and ensure that they are foolproof and they cannot be hacked by the hackers. So we talked about Y2Q, and we talked about Joe Biden. And we also seen the difference between Y2K and Y2Q. So, but what exactly are the U.S. Government doing, or the spy agencies are doing, is basically our spy agencies are warehousing the encrypted internet traffic and expecting it to read it in the near future, right? So we are going to use the quantum power to really process the complex internet traffic, which is encrypted, and where things are going wrong. And there are many standard algorithms which NIST and US government are working together to identify which one is the best, like Falcon or Sphinx or Crystal's Lithium or Crystal's Kyber. So before we get started with the quantum cryptography, is it going to be is going to be working on classical network, or are we going to have a new network called quantum network? So the answer is we are going to use a quantum network. So you'll have quantum devices, and you have quantum what you call keys, and quantum quantum encryptions done, quantum key distribution done, right? Quantum key exchanges. So it's going to be a classic network interacting with quantum devices and working with quantum cryptographic algorithms. So if you look at the diagram over here, you can see you have trusted private networks, you have senders and receivers, and you have a mix of trusted trusted networks and public and quantum channels. So the public channels remain to be classic, right? And we have quantum channels which are going through the quantum networks. So here again, just showing how exactly is they are going to interact. So the classic network devices won't go away, but we will only add the quantum devices to the quantum network to have the quantum encrypted messages or packets which are traversed across the network. So fine, everything is fine. So let's say so far so good. We have the quantum devices, we have new quantum algorithms. Let's say all the enterprises start replacing them, and then we have spy agencies looking for the what do you call the encrypted traffic, and finding out the suspects where the people are sniffing, or a man in the middle, or men in the middle are attacking. So everything is fine. So what's going wrong? What are the challenges? What are the issues? So many customers ask. Great slides, Bhagwan, so far, and everything is fine. So let's get started. Tell me, what are the issues when I start implementing it? What are the challenges when I start implementing? So the answer is that currently many of these things are in research, and like I mentioned, right, NIST has identified a set of algorithms. Every day something new comes up, right? And the cost for the research, right, the total cost of ownership is very high if you want to start these kind of projects. That's the first challenge. Second is, are these algorithms really scalable? Because we have e-commerce transactions, we have payments happening more than what you call 10 TPS or 20 TPS, 20 transactions per second, or more than sometimes 100 transactions per second, right? Are these algorithms really scalable, right? Is this quantum network, can this quantum network really handle that what is the speed and that volume of traffic? And also from the functionality point of view, we have so many what do you call tools and so many framework components which are part of the classic cryptography. Do we need to revisit all of those features and come up with the quantum equivalents of it? Right? Is it functional complete? Or we just have bits and pieces from different companies, when we assemble it and we think that we have a platform. So these are the questions which are in the CXO's mind when they want to start off a new enterprise initiative like quantum cryptography. Will it really work, or am I just experimenting and trying out and figuring out things to do so to prevent something is going to happen? So let's do a deep dive and see where exactly is the problem. So start with let's with fundamentals like quantum cryptographic techniques. What are the different quantum cryptographic techniques? Right? They are lattice based, hash based, isogeny based, and multivariate based. Right? These are all. I think you're all familiar with the hash based cryptographic techniques, but the new ones which are evolving are lattice based or isogeny based or multivariate. So now let's look at different algorithms, the quantum versus classic. Classic, we had AES, DES, RSA, and ESDSA. Quantum, there are new ones, like we have seen Falcon, Sphinx, and others. The other algorithms which are evolving on Merkle hash tree, Merkle Hahnemann, Bushman, Williams classic. Every day you see a new algorithm coming up, and we need to keep adding them and seeing which is better. So, like we discussed, right, there are many features, many functional components, many framework components in a classical cryptographic world. Like a simple thing is public key infrastructure. So what will happen with public key infrastructure? Are we going to use the classical one? How do you make this public key infrastructure quantum safe? Right. So as you're all familiar, I think public key infrastructure, like you looked at the Alice Bob model, right? You have public keys and private keys, and you have somebody issuing the digital certificates, certification authority, which is providing, and the certification authority is contacted to ensure that the certificate is trusted by both the sender and receiver, and you have data which is going across through the routing, right? And you have the PKI, quantum PKI infrastructure with certification authorities, and you have quantum devices and classic devices interacting and sending across the data, right? The key difference here is the certification authorities remain the same, but the public key infrastructure or the platform which is used will be now quantum PKI. So how does the quantum key distribution work? So we are all familiar with the classical one, right? You have digital certificates, you have public key, private key, you register the certificate, you trust the certificate, the sender downloads and registers the certificate, the receiver downloads and contacts the certification authority and certifies, and both sides starts interacting, sending across the messages, encrypted, decrypted, based on public and private key, which is available both sides, right? Looks very simple in the classical world. It's working now. But how does it work with the quantum key? Because you have quantum layer, quantum devices, classical computer, you have classical networks, quantum keys, right? So how does the key management work? Where are the keys stored? How does it work if it is a quantum device? Let's say you have quantum key distribution and you have the quantum keys which are sent across. How will the classical computer figure out the quantum key? How will it interact? How will it find? Will the certification authority find out who is accessing what? Right? Does it make a difference? Another question is the digital certificate quantum or classic agnostic, right? So these are the questions which come in mind, and for the users and applications and the network infrastructure providers and the especially the IT operations team. So let's get into exactly how exactly this quantum key distribution works. So in the classic cryptography, you have information security and you have the quantum safe world where quantum safe algorithms are subset of classic cryptography, right? Which we call post-quantum cryptography. So and they're computationally secure, right? Like we thought RSA is secure, now Diffie-Hellman is coming, ECC coming. But you see the green zone over there, that's where we want to be. But if you look at many of the companies which are there, are probably in the blue or in the white area, not using QKD. So what are quantum keys? So fundamentally, what is a key? So somebody asking a question, if classical computers still going to exist in parallel with quantum computers, won't that compromise the security, encryption, and cryptography keys? Brilliant question. So I'm going to answer that question. We are free after this slide. So what is a key, whether it's classic or quantum? So it has a key type, right? It has a set of attributes, key name, key alias, key ring, and key rotation policy. Right? These are the key classical or quantum key attributes. In the quantum key world, you have the root keys and the standard keys, right? Now the question comes, so you have classical keys and you have quantum keys, right? And you have digital certificates which are issuing these keys, right? Digital certificates will get upgraded to, let's say, digital quantum certificates. Certification authorities also get upgraded to issue both quantum and classical certificates, right? Now, how will these both coexist? Because the classical computers will continue to access the certification authority, right? And they will trust a certificate, right? And we need to ensure that those certificates are agnostic to both classic/quantum, right? Then this problem of distinguishing between quantum keys and classical keys will come down. But the challenge still exists that how do I upgrade? How do I know that I have the latest certificate? There needs to be some process, right, across the users, applications, and employees, vendors, suppliers. Everybody needs to get notified saying that please download the latest certificate. The old certificate is specifically for classic. We are now moving across. So there comes another problem that these classic certificates can open up a hole for the hackers. How do you ensure that the old classic do not work at all, and we have quantum/classic agnostic certificates? So these are some of the challenges which are currently being discussed, and how do we, while implementing, how do we ensure that the old certificates are expired, new certificates need to be downloaded, right? And that will ensure that the old certificate keys will not work while encrypting or decrypting from sender to receiver. Hope that answers question, Nadeem. And to everybody, feel free to post the questions as you move along.
Yeah, and I will at certain points basically pause, but I was since you're going in the flow, I was not pausing it, but I'll do that as well. Thank you, Nadeem, for the question.
Very good question by Nadeem, and that really is a very fundamental question which is being answered as we speak to many of the enterprises, and many certification authorities are also looking into these specific areas. The other thing is the quantum key distribution, right? You have quantum key management, you have quantum key distribution, and primarily these focus on identity and quantum key delivery and encryption as a service, right? I think you're all familiar with this, but it's only that these are all classical, right? The prefix is classical. So what's the difference? So like I mentioned, it's quantum key distribution. Quantum keys will have higher level of what you call security, and the hackers won't be able to hack these particular keys when encrypting and decrypting. Now it's a good time to revisit, right, the mental model, right, or the mind map that you have Alice and Bob, right? You have classical channel, you have quantum channel, right? On the network, both can exist, right? Now you're getting into the network level, right? Not the certification authorities where the certificates are agnostic of quantum and classical, but the network can have a classic channel, can have a quantum channel, can Alice might be on the quantum device, Bob can be on the classical device, or either way, right? So how do you ensure that these public and private key-based infrastructure continues to work, right? Through encryption, decryption, and we have our public keys and private keys. So this is where the QKD, QKM information sharing really helps out in terms of managing and encrypting and decrypting data, and also the certification authorities, like we talked about, right? Though the packets go through classical channel or a quantum channel, the quantum keys remain the same. The certificates, digital certificates on both ends of Alice and Bob, whether it is quantum device or classic device, right? We will have the certificates which are agnostic of classical and quantum keys. So what are the best practices when we go to quantum keys, right? So like we discussed about the key quantum key attributes, ensuring the quantum key rotation policy updated, right? We do not use the quantum key rotation policies which are old or expired. Ensure that the quantum key rings exist. It have key aliases, like a duplicate key. Have a backup of the quantum keys which are used, which are not used. Ensure that the quantum keys which are used are not used in future. And also, right, you need to have capability for enterprises to have bring your own quantum key management, bring your own quantum key distribution, where enterprises can feel secure, right? That they can have their own quantum keys, they can have their own quantum certificates managed within the enterprise and ensure that the quantum channels and classic channels work together within the enterprise when the data gets shared or exchanged. So now we have a little bit of knowledge on the quantum cryptography, but where is it exactly it's being used? Right? Is going to completely replace the whole classic world? Are we going to change every functional component of the security part, like authentication, authorization, where the identity is managed, where the roles are managed, where the role-based privileges are managed, where the access control is managed, permissions, entitlements of the products. Are we going to revisit every aspect of it? Good question. So let's focus on where these are used, where quantum cryptography is really used. So first, we're going to look at the trust exchange. As you clearly understood, looking at the Alice Bob classic model, it's all with the trust based, right? Most of the time, it's the trust between the sender and receiver and the certification authority. Both will contact the certification authority, get the certificate, work with the public key, and share information encrypted and decrypted, use the public key and private, right? So the trust exchange surely needs to be secured using the quantum keys, right? Whether it's a quantum channel or a classic channel. Identity access. When somebody is looking at the identity of the sender or the receiver, how do you ensure that the identity is secure? What if men in the middle are sniffing the packets, or they're doing phishing, or they're doing the faking identity using cookies or using the passwords or using the API keys or authentication keys, right? So that's another important area. Other important is the privileged access. It's not just the identity part. Whether the person can access a specific functionality is controlled through privileges. And that particular thing is again controlled through authorization tokens, like OAuth tokens or specific tokens. Right? Can men in the middle sniff and get the authorization tokens? The next part is the next generation trust settlement. How do you ensure that both sides settle themselves with the trust? And there are new models which are emerging with quantum cryptography. Meanwhile, Nadeem has a question. If the keys and certificates are agnostic to classic and quantum computers, then you mentioned new keys and certificates need to be used, and classic keys are certificates will expire. Will the classic computers be able to encrypt and decrypt it? Brilliant question. Right. So the encryption and the decryption algorithms which are used from in the both ends, right, by the PKI, the public key infrastructure will be upgraded, right? So that's another component which we need to look at, like where we will revisit when we get into the trust exchange part. The trust exchange part also focuses on the specific public key infrastructure of encryption and decryption. That needs to be done. That needs to be changed both sides. Right? That component is very important to be upgraded. I hope that answers the question.
Think it does. I Yeah, can move forward.
Right. So the next part is the compute power. In terms of compute power, the classical computers, can they really encrypt quickly and decrypt it, right, compared to the quantum computers? Yeah, the encryption part remains the same, right? The decryption part remains the same because you have the private key, right? So it's not like as complicated as hacking it. So it might require a little bit of more compute power compared to the classical encryption, but we don't need a quantum computer or a quantum device to really encrypt with a quantum key. It's again just an algorithm. I hope that answers Nazim's question. But these are all good questions, and these are all being looked at by NIST and US government and Department of Defense and different fintech companies and banks, because they're all worried what is going to happen with Y2Q. And they really don't know when it's going to happen. They really don't know how to change it and how to make it, how to fix it, because there are new things coming in as we speak. And every day comes up with something new. And as you all know, that there are data breaches and sensitive data getting stolen. So
Bhagwan, question for you, since do you cover parts of this in your book as well?
So there's an upcoming book which
Mhm.
is on quantum cryptography. Recently, one of the publishers is planning to publish it. So the one thing I saw is there is a need for these kind of topics, which are not covered in the books. Most of the books have mathematics part of it, algorithms part of it, but very less on the implementation front. So there is a need for what you call like a cookbook kind of thing, or a playbook for enterprises to really go and look at various aspects of the enterprise security and see how we can change and implement things and make them secure.
Got it.
So answer in short, yes, we are currently working on a proposal. We're going to focus only on quantum cryptography. I touch upon in one of the chapters in quantum solutions. I shared that in the Amazon author link. There's one chapter where I talk about the quantum cryptography part.
Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you.
So how does the trust-based exchange currently work, and when in the future, what is going to change? So as you all know, you have every enterprise has customers, partners, suppliers, vendors, and compliance partners, and the enterprises start interacting with various other enterprises also, like through B2B and so on, right? And so how do you ensure trust happens across all of these players? And what will be the difference between classic trust-based exchange versus quantum, right? So let's do a deep dive into trust-based, because if you look at it, it's purely trust-based. So what exactly happens in the trust exchange? What are the different framework components in the current world, current implementation? So let's revisit our mind map. So we have Alice and Bob, and now we have classic channel, quantum device, classic device, encryption, public and private keys, right? And in the trust, the question comes up from Victoria. Yeah, we have 14 NIST tests for random bit string, and we in my group try to test based from quantum source. More than half of tests fail. Do you know why and how we can test randomness of quantum source? Right. So this is another interesting problem, which is which is which has been there at least for the last 3-4 years. But I'll try to answer in my own way. So, like you all know that you give a random seed key, right? And you give a key, and based on the random seed key, you generate a random number between, let's say, a set of integers starting with min and max, right? Let's say between 1 to 100. And random, let's pick a random number, and then it generates random 31, right? But we always had the random seed, right? But in the quantum world, right, is random really random, right? So the answer is you don't in the like in classic world, you don't have seeds, right? Random is really random. How do you make it really random, right? Whether the seed is 0 or seed is 1 or seed is 10, it has to be random. So that's where the quantum mechanics work. If you remember the old Bohr's principle, or the principle of knowing the position or not knowing the velocity, right? If you are observing a particle, and because of you observing, it might impact on the position of the particle or the velocity. So you go back to the physics and look at all those principles. Right? The observer, because of the observing a specific particle, the behavior changes. So those principles come in, those quantum mechanic principles come in algorithms, like simple algorithm of random number generation. Is it really random? When I give a seed 0 or 1, the random number, does it change? So many of the tests are failing on this particular part because quantum mechanics principles are not really working, right? So how does this really help? Right? That's another interesting question. Many people have like customers saying, "Bhagwan, we have been working on random numbers for decades, or probably more than that, but we never thought about this random seed random and completely having random and maybe electrons and neutrons and protons are all working fine with this observation principle, or the speed, position and velocity is not determined. But why do I care about this randomness? The answer is the men in the middle, right? When the men in the middle are sniffing the network packets, if somebody changes or touches the packet to decrypt it or sniff it to download it or observes that particular packet, right? So what happens in the quantum mechanic world? That particular quantum key gets tampered. So when it reaches the destination, immediately, like when Alice sends to Bob will figure out, hey, this particular packet is tampered. So I send a message back to Alice saying that looks like there is something wrong going on in the network. Let's switch the channel, right? Move away from that particular channel, right? Because men in the middle can like can argue saying that he'll keep on tampering and ensure that messages are not sent across at all, right? So we'll switch the channel, and then you have a secure channels, and then you can encrypt and decrypt without having the quantum keys tampered. So far we have reached that level of security where we can identify that things are tampered, right? And regarding the randomness part, I think that's where it really plays a very important role. But most of these algorithms are failing that particular test. So we need to rework on this particular random bit string and make it really random, apply quantum mechanic principles. And NIST is currently working on that. I hope that answers Victoria's question. And that's the best I can do. And if I am really capable of answering it, I might have been sitting in NIST on a letter note. So coming back to, so Victoria has another question. Any good papers? I'll share the link after this particular meet.
Also,
There's a lot of
yeah, and in this area, right, we had a few NIST scientists as well here, especially the postdocs and the researchers. Victoria, if there is a need, I can connect you to some of them, especially working in the NIST area as well. Okay.
Nadia wants any good books. Yeah, sure. I'll share across the good books which focus on this particular topic. So coming to trust exchange, so like we were discussing, we need to focus on different framework elements on identity management, identity governance, entitlements, encryption keys, digital secrets, and digital certificates. So if you look at the classical world, how the digital certificates are, what do you call, processed or installed or issued, like you have a certification authorities, you have, they issue the certificates, they can reissue the certificate if the certificate is not trustworthy. You can install the certificate, configure that certificate, and every certificate has an expiry period, right? And most of sometimes you buy for a year or 2 years, and you renew the certificates. And how does it work in the classical world? So we all know that we use these certificates to have a secured, what you call network power, the data transfer using TLS, SSL. We have verified marks. We have code being signed using digital certificates. We have documents being signed by digital certificates. We have user and MIME certificates, which are again digitally signed. So how do the current trust models work? Trust models currently have hierarchy model. You have hierarchies, organizational hierarchies, which are model and LDAP or like Azure Directory or Active Directory. Right? And you have Web of Trust, that's the new model which is coming in. And you have BRID certificates, which again a new certificate authority for the architecture. So now we looked at the classical world. Now we have the quantum equivalent, right? When you have a quantum key distribution, what really changes? So again, here we revisit our old enterprise architecture where you have something on-premise, some applications are on the cloud, and you have users accessing it through desktop, web application, mobile, and you have services which are REST services or any protocol-based services which are deployed on the cloud. And you have middleware, which is again either running on the cloud or in the enterprises, which have the external services, or there are third-party services which are provided for payment or banking or for no KYC, know your customer, or any other third-party service. And you have on-premise enterprise information data. The use case is very simple, but how do you go about ensuring when you have customers, when you have suppliers, when you have vendors, you have partners, interact and share information in a secured way and a secured channel? So again, we look at the best practices. I think we looked at this. I'll skip the slide. So what's next? So many people say, "Well, okay, we have the secure quantum key distribution, we have the certification authorities, we have trust-based exchange looking at all these models, right? But how does the next generation trust settlement framework work? So what are the different areas we need to look at? And when you have complete quantum keys, quantum key distribution, quantum key management platforms readily available, say how does it look? So my sincere answer is that we need to look at data in use, data in rest, data in transit, data in motion. Look at all these different parts of the data, right? Are they encrypted? Are they decrypted? If so, are you using any digital certificates to encrypt and decrypt? Are you using any digital certification authority to share the information across sender and receiver, right? Similarly, data in transit, data in motion, even if the data is in the rest, let's say in a data so database, relational database, or NoSQL database, is the database encrypted? In the database, is the data encrypted? If so, what is the algorithm which you're using? Are you using any digital certificate to encrypt and decrypt it? Or are you using your own code or your own algorithm or any particular open source algorithms, right? What are the algorithms which you're going to use? So these are the questions which will come in. Similarly, in the data in use also, the data is being used and sent across the wire, and data is encrypted and decrypted. What are the algorithms which you're going to use, right? So these are the questions which you need to ask going forward as we get into the next generation trust settlement. So one thing which I didn't add, there's another interesting development which is happening. Like we used to have satellites which used to help us out in this whole network communication, in the whole internet infrastructure. We're going to have quantum satellites, right? So now again, we used to, in the networks, we had quantum network, quantum channel, classical channel. So we're going to have digital satellites and quantum satellites, and you have quantum channels, right? Across the world, people communicating through quantum channels, right? So that's the next generation. So many people are looking at launching these quantum satellites, having quantum channels, and having quantum cryptography and quantum key distribution happening, right? From the earth to the satellite, and then satellite to under the ground station. So if you're going to have quantum satellite, how does this quantum satellite framework look like, and what's the big difference between digital certificate and quantum satellite? Sorry, the digital satellite versus quantum satellite. So we're going to have power reconfiguration, we're going to have beam tracking, we're going to have spectrum configuration, we're going to have hopping. Everything looks the same, except that where we are going to use how this quantum satellite is going to send the quantum information using quantum channels. Like for example, use case will be prediction, simulation, optimization. And the quantum satellite will focus on quantum encryption, and how these quantum keys are distributed from satellite to ground station, satellite-relayed intercontinental quantum network, and satellite-based quantum communication and configuration. Right? So that's the next generation. So I'm just envisioning what's going to happen when we have these ground stations using the quantum satellite, using the quantum communication network, right? How does it communicate, right? I'm sure you're familiar with quantum entanglement, emitter and source. entanglement emitter, entanglement source, and you have quantum key communicator, and you have satellite antennas being used for to transfer the data across from one ground station to another ground station from the space. Right, you can visualize the ground stations on the Earth, and you have over the top the quantum satellite and doing the orchestration, sending, transferring the information of data from through the satellite antennas and communicating to the ground station through the communication network, and you can have the information and command processing unit. So the question comes now is, since this field is gaining momentum and it can compromise security, how far do you think are we from skies falling? So, like many of these spy agencies and Department of Defense, people answer, and the answer is that we really don't know when the sky is falling, because most of the data breaches and data, sensitive data is getting exposed like, as we speak. Who knows? They're already the quantum devices, the quantum computing power is already in the hands of the hacker, right? So, answer is yeah, we really don't know when it's going to fall. The classic answer is not to panic, but plan carefully and identify the errors that ensure that your data, which is in use, which is in transit, which is in motion, which is in rest, is being revisited, and ensure that the algorithms which you are used, right, are not what you call easily hacked by the hackers. So more about the quantum satellite, how the antennas work, the solar cells, and telemetry and tracking, and finally, how does it fit in, right, into the 5G network, right? Now we have the 5G network, and we have terrestrial communication network, port and ground system. So that's where I ended. But if people are interested, I have at least added one or two chapters on quantum satellite, because that's going to dramatically change how we communicate through the network across the continents, across the countries, with security and encrypted and data, with the secure data and secure transmission of information.
Yeah,
So,
Bhagwan, do you want to have a follow-up session on the satellite portion of it, or what do you think?
yeah, I think the follow up is a good idea, because that's another interesting area which is evolving.
Yeah, and I think the participants have really good questions. I love the questions Nadeem and Victoria had, and some of them are very much timely as well. Um, so Victoria, you have been directly messaging me, so I'm gonna read your question. Uh, so she is asking, so we need to create our new quantum random tests, I think she meant quantum random seed. Any ideas how to create quantum random seeds?
Yeah, so that's another idea, right? So if you want to use a classic algorithm and make it completely random, so you want to make the seed random and make a complete thing random, but that's not really the idea. The idea is the quantum randomness comes in, right, from quantum mechanics, like I mentioned about Bohr's principle, right, where right, there's no predeterminism in quantum mechanics, right? So the output numbers should not have any patterns, right? So I can share more articles on this, and we can look at the like classic entanglement theory and how randomness can be achieved through quantum mechanics principles, right?
Yeah,
So in the
random itself is a huge topic of discussion. I mean, if you go back classically, I mean, if you see that is not really, I mean, we say random, it's not really random. I mean, I think the quantum, because of the change in the mechanism of qubits, and now you're not talking about two states, you're talking about a sphere, and you're talking multiple states and multiple phases. We have a more broader subset for that. So yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts, and Victoria, I'll also invite you to share your research work as well in that area. As a
so
quantum theorist, yeah, what do you think about it?
yeah, I think it's a good topic, and for Victoria, I just shared with the evolving area where we have quantum random generators which are developed, right? And those are based on the quantum physics and quantum mechanic principles. So one idea can be like that, like what Nadim was thinking. In the seed becomes random, right?
Yeah.
But what happens in reality is the quantum mechanics, right? Is most of the time it's a probability, right? It's probable that this particular electron might be in this particular what you call circle, right? Orbit, like for example, orbit number one, orbit number two, like n equal to one, two, three, right? And also there's energy when you jump from one orbit to another orbit, right? So all those physics and chemistry principles will fall in, right? So so this is where I think again I don't want to get into religion, but most of the people think God does not play dice, right? So and Einstein apparently rejected quantum indeterminism, right? And he thought quantum mechanics was wrong. So it's high time that Einstein's theory or Einstein's statement is taken back. That that there are quantum random. There is quantum randomness, right? And there is dice being rolled, like in especially in the physics and mechanics, and it's most of the time probability of some event happening, an atom decaying or a photon hitting a screen, right?
Mhm.
So these are some of the interesting topics which are in this area, and this again very interesting topic if you get into the Einstein's theory and quantum mechanics, and also a little bit of religion, like God's eye view of a subatomic particle and Bohr's principle. Right, he's observing, and or a human is observing a particle. Will that impact that particular particle position or velocity?
Yep. I know we are almost at time, Bhagwan. I really, really appreciate you coming and speaking to us. This was one of the lively sessions. A lot of questions. I loved the interaction as well. And then what we'll do is I'll work with you to set up a follow-up session. And I'll post this video maybe next in a couple of days. Then we'll take it from there. I hope everybody liked the session. I will send a feedback notice, survey, and that's basically to help me and to help even the host who's speaking here, the guest speaking here, not the host. I'm sorry, and take it from there. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Bhagwan, and this will continue. We'll have one more session coming soon.
So thanks, Taposh, and thanks everybody for taking time and joining the session. It was great interacting with you. I think there was one more message. Where will the video be posted? I think that's what
There
Taposh.
is there is a channel for Silicon Valley Quantum Computing Group on YouTube. I always post it on that. There is a website now called Quantum Valley Tech. I posted that link as well, so you can go from there to the YouTube links as well. Okay. Let me know if there are other questions, and Meetup is where we primarily now discuss all these things. There is also a WhatsApp channel for the group as well.
I have shared my email address just in case if you have any questions or you want to know more about my upcoming books and current books, feel free to send an email. I have shared my email address and LinkedIn profile.
Sounds good. Sounds good. I'll share all this information. So thank you everyone for being part of this. Really appreciate it.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Bye.